Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're taking a look at the genre rules and Druid and Illusionist spells for Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy. Before we get started though, a quick shout out to Brennan Hanna, who recently became a patron over on the Questing Beast Patreon. Thank you so much, Brennan, for helping to support the channel. I really appreciate it. Also remember to subscribe and hit that bell icon down below if you would like to stay notified when new Questing Beast reviews arrive. All right, so a little bit of back history here. These are both supplements for Old School Essentials, which is a line of books that recreates basic and expert D&D from the 80s. So what these are, those books, the original line of books, are very faithful recreations of D&D. What these are is they're taking a lot of the concepts, the spells, the classes, and systems from Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, which came afterwards, and it's retrofitting it, it's revising it to fit in with the simpler, faster BX rules, or the Old School Essentials rules. So that's what we find in here. And then this book is just a list of spells for some of the new classes. So let's look at what we have in here first. There's the back cover. As always with Old School Essentials, really great feeling books. They have a nice weight to them. It's a nice hardcover. They're very well bound. They hold open like this. They don't want to stay closed. They open quite nicely. The inside covers are being used. So we have a lot of great tables here, mostly saving throws, paladins turning the undead, spell books and learning spells, and so on. So important references are right there, ready for you to use. So in this book, this is basically what we're going to get here. 9 human character classes. We're going to get 6 demi-human character classes. Optional rules for creating a character by separately choosing a race and a class. That's not something that you did in early D&D. There's also rules for purchasing and using poisons, and optional rules to add extra mechanical depth to combat, character creation, spell acquisition, and other areas of the game. Required book. So this is an add-on. This book doesn't really stand alone. You need to have the other Old School Essentials books for this to make any sense. You're going to need the core rules, the classic fantasy genre rules, the classic fantasy cleric and magic user spells, and the advanced fantasy druid and illusionist spells, which I'll look at in just a second. Some notes on advanced play, including the underworld, how advanced character options work, and get right into the new classes. So all of these I'm going to show you, some of them look like traditional classes, some look like races, but in this version of D&D, those are the same thing. You simply pick one. For example, either you are an acrobat, we have assassin, barbarian, bard. These all sound like classes to us if you're familiar with like 5th edition. Then we have drow. In more modern versions of D&D, drow would be a race that you could pick, but here it's just the type of character. It is the class. Either you're a drow or you're a bard, right? You pick one or the other. Each of them has distinct characteristics. For example, if you're an acrobat, you have some rules for jumping, tumbling attacks. And when you reach 9th level, you can establish a training school, attracting 2d6 apprentices. Assassins, there's rules for disguising, for acquiring hirelings. And at 12th level, you can attempt to take over an existing guild of assassins or thieves by killing the old guild master. The barbarians can do stuff like curing poisons, fear of magic, foraging and hunting. And at 8th level, they call upon their native people to form a great horde of warriors, numbering 250 per level above 7th. The warriors are 1st level fighters with basic combat gear and may be mounted if customary in their culture. A horde can only be mustered for a specific purpose, attacking enemy city, rescuing hostages, etc. Once the purpose is achieved or abandoned, the horde disbands. Mustering a horde takes 1 week and remains for 1 week per level of the barbarian. So these sorts of rules sound very strange to modern D&D, but that's because older D&D was working at a higher level in the sense that it was more about dealing with an entire fantasy world. So it's something like raising a horde and besieging a castle to rescue a hostage and then, succeeding at your mission and the horde disbanded would be the kind of event that you would expect in this type of game. We have bards. Bards have divine magic. They have enchantment magic. And at 11th level, they get some apprentice bards. The drow have some divine magic. They have immunity to ghoul paralysis, listening at doors, spider affinity, and a drow may establish a subterranean stronghold or temple at 9th level. We have druids. Of course, they have their own special list of druid spells. And at 12th level, there can only be 9 druids of 12th level. Period. So once you reach 12th level, you must find an existing 12th level druid. And then you have to defeat them. That's really great. It's world building. Some of these rules I have been reading in AD&D, the Dungeon Master's Guide. I've been doing a project on this channel where I'm reading the whole thing out loud, which is a little bit ridiculous, but I've run into some of these rules already, which are really interesting in the way that the advancement is grounded in the world rather than just in a game mechanic. We have the Duergar, who can do things like they have a bunch of mental powers, including enlargement, invisibility, shrinking, and heat. And at 9th level, they can create an underground stronghold that will attract Duergars from far and wide. We have gnomes. Gnomes have some arcane magic. They can detect construction. They are good at hiding. And at 8th level, they have the option of creating an underground stronghold that will attract gnomes from far and wide, similar to the one we just looked at. What you might notice about all of these is that there is a really strong incentive to get to a high level. When you get to a high level, you shift up into domain level play, where you're no longer just wandering through corridors killing goblins. Now you're dealing with the world as the leader of a faction, which is just a completely different kind of role-playing. And there's rules for moving up to that level. Half-elves have arcane magic, and after reaching 9th level, they may strive to become a leader among humans or among elves, constructing a stronghold either in the name of a human liege or in the deep forests of the elves. And you have rules for each one of those. Half-orcs, they can backstab, so a little bit like thieves in some way. They have retainers, they have thieving skills, and at 8th level, they can establish a bandit stronghold. Illusionists, of course, have their own list of specialized illusionist spells. And at 11th level, they can build a stronghold, often a great tower. We have knights. They have a chivalric code. They have flying mounts. They have rules for hospitality. And at 9th level, they become a baron or a baroness. And you can actually acquire a barony. We have paladins that, of course, can turn dead, lay on hands. They have some divine magic. They have a vow of humility. And after reaching 9th level, with the permission of their holy order, they can build a castle or stronghold and control the surrounding lands. They also get a barony, essentially. We have rangers that can, at 10th level, 2d12 beings will join the ranger as followers. Neat. So you can get all sorts of animal companions. More than one, right? You can get a whole horde of animals following you around. Zverfneblin? I've never been good at pronouncing that. Another type of gnome creature living underground. At 8th level, they can construct a subterranean stronghold that will attract Zverfneblin from far and wide. Now we get into the section character races, because this is laying out how you would actually do the split race class thing that became more of a feature in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. What we have here is a kind of re-encapsulation of some of the classes. So we have, not classes, races. So we have drow, Duergar, dwarf, elf, gnome, human, and so on. But if you notice that they're much shorter, they only take up one page instead of a whole 2-page spread. So they're sort of distilled down to just those racial features, so they can be plugged into a class, and then those two things together will make up who you are. And there are step-by-step instructions on how to do that to make sure you're doing it correctly. Each of these has their own maximum level by class. So with certain combinations, you're only going to be able to get to a certain level. Elves, gnomes, half-elves, halflings, half-orcs, humans. These only have one column each. They're quite straightforward. Zverfneblin. We come to a section on rules for poison. If you're an assassin, you're going to need to know these rules, because this will be your whole deal. And some extra class abilities. So limits on turning the undead, attacking with 2 weapons, charging into melee, parrying, splash weapons. These are just, it adds more detail and more complexity, if that is something that you want in your game. They're just modular. More rules for magic, including adding spells to your spellbook, how to multi-class over here on this page, and secondary skills if you want to flesh out your character's background with a few other things they can do, weapon proficiencies, and then we have our open game license at the back with more tables ready to be used on the back spread. Let's look at the Druid and Illusionist spells. We'll go through this fairly quickly. We have a summary here of all the different types of Druid spells. I'm assuming that the back, has a summary of all the Illusionist spells. The layout and the attention to making things easy to read and find stuff is just really great. Druid spells are mostly broken into survival, healing, and offense, while Illusionist spells are mostly deception, mind control, and warping reality in one way or another. Druids and Illusionist spells get a nice summary right here. And then we break down into each spell. Just like what we found in the original books of Old School Essentials, the layout of each spell makes them very easy to read. There isn't a lot of just long paragraphs of text. Things are broken down into bullet points. How does each aspect of the spell work? It's very easy to look them up. Animal Friendship. Duration, permanent. Range, 10 feet. Quick description of basically what it does. If the save succeeds, if this save fails, when the binding is now complete, here's the things that you can do. It's very unambiguous, which I like. Second level spells, third level spells, fourth. Again, each of these levels of spells is kept to a single 1-page or 2-page spread. So if you need some fourth level spells, you just turn to right here. This is all that you need to know. We get into the Illusionist spells, starting with Auditory Illusion and Chromatic Orbs. Quite a lot of first level spells. Moving on for multiple pages. But then second level spells starts at the top of a new page. Phantom Steeds, Rope Tricks, Paralyzation, Spectral Forces, Suggestions, Wraith Forms, Confusion, Illusory Stamina, Improved Invisibility, Rainbow Patterns, Phantasmal Killers, Solid Fog, Chaos, Demi-Shadow Monsters, Major Creations, Maze of Mirrors, Seeming, Shadowcast, Time Flow, Visitation, then we get the really good stuff, Acid Fog, Dream Quest, Manifest Dream, Mass Suggestion. Illusionists seem like they would be a lot of fun to play at high levels. Through the Looking Glass. A lot of these are quite detailed because you can imagine that there would be a lot of questions that people would ask, that your players are going to ask about exactly how each of these types of illusions works. So I like that it does have a lot of detail for that. And there we go. Index of spells are at the back, all in alphabetical order with page numbers to make you looking them up even faster. So that's really great. Looking this stuff up is going to be really quick. Just because you have everything organized by level, you also have them organized by name. It's great. So there we have our 2 new add-ons for Old School Essentials. Use these if you want more detail in your Old School Essentials game. If you want more races and classes, if you want to multi-class, if you want to combine races and classes, and if you want your sweet Druid and Illusionist spells, these are the books to get. As always, links will be down in the description below where you can pick these up for yourself. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.